Welcome to the presentation series on employee proactivity. I am Chia-huei, an organizational psychologist. I study proactivity in the workplace and seek to address questions such as, why some employees are more proactive than others? How to promote employees' proactivity? Does employee proactivity always bring positive outcomes? My work on proactivity have been published at scholarly journals, including Academy of Management Journal, Journal of Applied Psychology, and Journal of Management. I have also published a book. The title is Employee Proactivity in Organizations: An Attachment Perspective. In this presentation, I discuss what employee proactivity is. I will introduce 3 different perspectives that have been used to understand employee proactivity. In today's global economy, organizations must operate within complex environments that require rapid responses to changes. To succeed within these increasingly uncertain environments, employees can proactively improve the work environment or facilitate personal development. For example, to respond to anticipated challenges, employees can create, introduce and apply new ideas at work. Employees also can make constructive suggestions to improve the work environment. When performing tasks, employees can actively seek feedback from supervisors or peers to learn whether they are on the right track, and regulate their performance accordingly. They also can take the initiative in shaping their careers by consulting seniors, and actively building relationships with experts in specific areas. These are just some examples of employee proactivity for making changes in the work environment, or facilitating their personal development. So, what is employee proactivity? Can we understand different examples of employee proactivity as a common concept? To date, scholars have offered 3 different perspectives to understand employee proactivity. The 3 perspectives include a dispositional perspective, a behavioral perspective, and an action process perspective. I will introduce these perspectives individually. A dispositional perspective focuses on individuals' tendencies in making changes. It recognizes that people can vary in degrees of such a tendency. For example, some people are more keen than others to bring about changes, simply due to their personalities. To capture the tendency, Bateman and Krant propose the concept of proactive personality. A person high in proactive personality is relatively unconstrained by situational forces, and tend to make changes. For example, proactive people scan for opportunities, show initiative, take action, and persevere until they reach closure by bringing about change. Empirically, proactive personality can predict various forms of proactive behavior, such as taking charge, voice, networking, and career initiative. The dispositional perspective helps identify those who are more proactive than others. For employers, they can select high proactive personality employees. However, the dispositional perspective has 2 limitations. First, it does not consider the role of context. Proactive employees may not always enact proactively. For example, employees higher in proactive personality may not enact changes if it brings personal cost, such as being punished by their supervisors. As such, the dispositional perspective may not help manage proactive action in a specific work context. Second, people can vary in their goals. The dispositional perspective does not consider employees' goals of proactivity. For example, some employees are proactive to help the work unit, while others are proactive for their career prospects. Knowing who are more proactive does not help explain why employees are proactive in different ways. These limitations lead scholars to focus on employees' behaviors. We now turn to a behavioral perspective of employee proactivity. Rather than focusing on a general tendency, most studies focus directly on behaviors that aim to bring about change. I have provided several examples earlier to show different proactive behaviors. Despite there are different forms of proactive behavior, scholars have identified core elements of various forms of proactive behavior, including self-initiative, future-focused, and change-oriented. Proactive behavior is self-initiated. It is enacted without the actor being told to. Proactive behavior is future-focused. It aims to deal with anticipated problems or opportunities in the long term. Proactive behavior is change-oriented. It seeks to change the situation or self to bring about a different outcome. While the behavioral perspective seeks to capture the commonality of proactive behavior, such an approach is challenging, because it is neither easy nor reasonable to put all proactive behaviors into one box. To address this, scholars have proposed different frameworks to classify different proactive behavior into a small number of categories. It is a compromise to consider commonalities and differences between different forms of proactive behavior. For example, Parker and Collins summarized proactive behavior into 3 broad goals. The first goal is to improve employees' work environment. Behavior serving this goal is called proactive work behavior, including taking charge, voice, innovation and problem prevention. For example, taking charge involves bringing about improved procedures in the workplace. Voice is to communicate one's views about work issues to others. Innovation is to search out new techniques, technologies, and product ideas. Finally, problem prevention is to find the root cause of things that go wrong. These behaviors all aim to improve the internal organizational environment. The second goal is to achieve a better fit between the person and the environment. Behavior serving this goal is called proactive person-environment fit behavior, including feedback inquiry, feedback monitoring, job change negotiation and career initiative. For example, feedback inquiry refers to seeking feedback from the supervisor about work performance. Feedback monitoring is to observe what performance behaviors the boss rewards and use this as feedback on one's own performance. Job change negotiation is to negotiate with others about task assignments and role expectations. Career initiative is about one's active attempts to promote his or her career. These behaviors all aim to improve compatibility between employees' attributes and the organizational environment. The third goal is to improve the fit of the organization with its wider environment. Behavior serving this goal is called proactive strategic behavior, including strategic scanning and issue selling. Strategic scanning is to actively scan the environment to see how what is happening might affect the organization in the future. Issue selling refers to one's attempt to call the organization's attention to key trends, developments, and events that have implications for its performance. These behaviors all aim to help the organization's fit with the external environment. Of course, there are different ways to classify proactive behaviors. Griffin, Neal, and Parker differentiate proactive behaviors based on employees' work roles at the different levels in the organization. For example, individual task proactivity refers to proactive behaviors relevant to employees' individual work tasks or roles, such as initiating better ways of doing one's core tasks. Team member proactivity refers to proactive behaviors contributing to a team's situation or teamworks, such as suggesting ways to make the team more effective. Organization member proactivity refers to proactive behaviors contributing to organizational operations, such as coming up with ways of increasing efficiency within the organization. Bell-Schock and Den Hartog use the influence target to differentiate proactive behavior. Pro-self proactive behavior refers to behavior for enhancing personal career goals. Pro-social proactive behavior refers to behavior for helping work colleagues. Pro-organization proactive behavior refers to behavior for achieving the organization's goals. So now you can see that different classification frameworks capture different forms of proactive behavior. Although not all proactive behaviors can be incorporated under each framework, these frameworks offer different ways to understand key proactive behavior in the workplace. Researchers can choose a framework that fits better with their research purpose. We also can propose new frameworks to enrich our understanding of proactive behavior. In contrast to the approach classifying proactive behavior into different categories, some scholars are interested in proactive behavior in a specific context, such as those presented below, including newcomer proactive behavior, proactive career behavior, proactive job research behavior and proactive customer service performance. If the purpose is to understand employees' proactive actions in a specific context, then it would be desirable to focus on specific proactive behavior. However, proactivity is more than observable behavior. An action process perspective suggests that proactivity involves 4 steps. Firstly, employees envision a different future, to know what to change, and achieve. Secondly, employees make plans to go through different scenarios for bringing about a change. Thirdly, employees take actions, a concrete step to make the change. Finally, after taking actions, employees reflect on these actions and their consequences, to evaluate if the anticipated change has been achieved. During the change process, employees will move back and forth across these steps. The action process perspective has 2 features. First, it recognizes that proactivity involves not only behaving but also thinking. Proactivity is more than doing. It is a purposeful and deliberative process that requests employees' thoughtfulness in driving change. Second, whether employees behave proactively or not is affected by factors at different stages, like envisioning, planning and reflecting. The action process perspective, therefore, offers a broader framework to understand why an employee is proactive or not. To summarize, the 3 perspectives have their own pros and cons, and they complement each other. While the dispositional perspective helps form a proactive workforce via selection, there is no guarantee that individuals higher in proactive personality will always behave proactively. The behavioral perspective, in contrast, helps managers identify and manage specific proactive behavior. However, it only considers behaving, and does not recognize the importance of thinking when employees seek to drive change. Finally, the action process does recognize the thinking component of proactivity. It suggests that proactivity should be understood as a process of setting and achieving goals. However, such a goal process may not be easily to capture, as individuals can move back and forth across different steps, and have a complex process in leading change. These are references cited in this presentation. You can read them for more details.